Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, when you become a real truther, um, like a real truther, like you're willing to accept the truth no matter how much it disturbs you or unsettles you. The is a very there's a very simple line, or so there's a very simple pattern you have to see, right? It's that moment when you're thinking, well, like let's say you're waking up, you're kind of in a sheeple type of mentality, and then you start becoming a truther. You're like, well, maybe the system might collapse. Maybe there will be apocalypse, right? Like, it's always kind of there, and everyone's there a little bit, even the most sheeple. There's this sense that, oh wow, the system could actually collapse. Like it's at the fringe of some people's minds, right? You're like, well, maybe there'll be some epic disaster like we see in movies, or some big event, or nuclear war, or economic, whatever it might be, right? As some idea that, well, that could actually happen, right? Because like you're going from this idea that the system is indestructible and that we're doing great, and your mind starts to be open to the possibility, or it might scare you, but it's there as a possibility, like a logical or reasonable possibility. But when you become a real truther, you look at the world and you go, how the F did this not already collapse? Like, how are we still going, right? How is this how is this thing still chugging along? Because like when you look into the numbers, when you look into the people, I mean the people are the number one tell. It's the people. And that's something that the internet has brought to us more than just the truth community, because the information's there available to everybody. It's just truthers being able to, and most people see some of it, like if not all of it, but some of it. You see it every day, and certainly it starts with our leadership, but it's across the board. And then when you look around, you go to like Walmart, you look around, and you look at the food we're eating, you look at the medicines we're taking. You watch an ad. Like I fast forward through, mostly when I watch sports. It's the only time I watch commercial TV that I've taped, and I fast forward the commercials. But when I see a pharmaceutical ad, I always stop and watch it for the side effects. It's like entertainment, right? And so the whole thing becomes, how are we still going? How is this even possible? It seems to defy the laws of physics and divinity and all these things, that our system's still going. It seems like it already collapsed and we're all just in some kind of you know post. There's nobody on the planet. We're just in some realm where we're trying to um, process what's happening. Like, and then come to terms with that the Earth is now depopulated or something. It's like there's no way we should still be going. And I'm going to give you a lot of evidence in this video. There's Trump's new tariffs. There's Elon Musk's getting a black eye, getting the golden key to the country from Donald Trump, and then a big bombshell story about his catamine use. And you know, uh, well, there's Elon Musk came out and said that there's two titles to this video. One is how are we still going. The other is is anybody in the White House not wearing diapers? And so the reason behind that is Elon Musk came out and said that his catamine use was causing him severe bladder issues. And because, we'll get to that, I'll show you all this stuff with that. And I looked it up. Chronic catamine use can lead to severe bladder issues, including collectively known as catamine-induced cytitis. Symptoms include frequent and urgent urination, painful urination, blood in the urine, and incontinence. Over time, these can result in reduced bladder capacity, bladder wall thickening, and potential kidney damage. And so he's apparently admitted this to his people in his inner circle, and they ratted him out. So he's wearing a fucking mere adult diaper. We already know what Joe Biden My butt's been wiped. Remember he came out with that. Joe Biden. I mean, there's a couple times you see, it looks like he's taking a dump, like he's just standing there. And so he's wearing. I mean, Biden's definitely diapered up. And then there was this former apprenticed employee that said Trump's so messed up on these drugs. Is it Ambien or what is it? Whatever that is. Whatever he was snorting us. Coke and something. One of those. Not Ambien, whatever that thing is. I'll remember it later. But he's Adderall, and he's he's wearing diapers. I mean, so like everyone in the fucking government's walking around in diapers. Like, is it a part of is it a club? And so, but let's start off with diaper wear number one here.
Good, Well, the prognosis is good, we're working on everything. It's moving along, so I feel good.
Have you decided on your treatment options?
Yeah, we have, and they're underway, and all the folks are very optimistic.
And so you've started treatment?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share what exactly that entails?
Well, it's all a matter of taking a pill, one particular pill, and for the next 6 weeks and then another one. And the expectation is we're going to be able to beat this.
Okay, so is the pill radioactive? Because was it, or hormones? He's taking hormones. It's estrogen. They got to denut him. Like testosterone makes the cancer grow quicker, which is bizarre. And so they have to denut him, getting rid of all testosterone, which has already happened for him. Because he's had this. He just didn't get it. Like, it's just everyone knows. See, here's the thing. Like, Biden's so clueless. He has no idea. We all know he's senile. And he's had prostate cancer for a while. Like, even the reporters know and won't say. Like, everybody knows that they released this thing. I mean, at a time where there was a damaging book about him. And, it's just, no one gives a shit anymore. But, we now know we had a president with terminal cancer because he's going to die from the cancer. And that's what everyone's saying, every expert's saying. It's what they're saying, whatever the 9, whatever the 9 scale was. It's not stage 9, but it's the scale that they said. It's in his bones. And so he's already old as fuck and he's going to die. I mean, no one thought he was going to be around much longer anyway. And now we know what he's going to die from. And so I don't know why they're even rolling this guy out, because no one gives a shit. Like, no, they're still pretending like this guy is relevant. He's a disgrace. The Democrats should be like run away from this guy and his handlers, because we know that he had dementia for quite some time. It was Parkinson's. And so, I've showed you the Parkinson's doctor. I have the whole thing. I have that whole compilation I can play from time to time. If this keeps on, when it comes up. But, he's already a walking freaking corpse. This is Weekend at Bernie's. We know about the auto pen. We know about, all of it. And, not just the right-wing people, but everybody. Everyone freaking knows. What are you talking about, bro? You're not going to get better from this. You're dying. Like, this was leave this guy alone. He's got a giant tumor that's entered into his bones and his prostate. And, and he's wearing the diapers, which everyone kind of knew. I mean, I think most people thought it at least possible. And so he's out there. He's so oblivious.
It's not in any organ. It's my bones are strong. I hadn't penetrated, so I'm feeling good.
Sir, I feel like everybody expects. Sorry,
I've done it.
My bones are strong. It hasn't penetrated. Did you say those fucking words? Did you just say those fucking words? My bones are strong. It hasn't penetrated. You diaper wearing motherfucker. You think that we believe that shit when, the medical community said it's in his bones. That was part of what your team released, and as part of what's going on. You had prostate cancer that went malignant or metastasized or whatever the word they used, and went into your bones, and now it's spreading your system. Like, no one would think your bones are strong. I mean, we're not saying they're necessarily fragile because you fall all the fucking time and you're not having broken bones. And so, I don't think, like, there's a time when my grandmother, she lived till she was 99. and she fell down and broke her hip, like just from falling. Like you can't fall when you get older. Like falling is like, I mean, I fall and I can't get up, right? It's like a thing. When you're a kid, I mean, I used to try to do flips and failed and would land on my back. I mean, like you do all kinds of shit when you're kids and and like whatever it is. But then you get older and it is, falling is bad. So we don't have to necessarily think his bones are frail, but it's not like, you have adamantium in your bones. Like, your bones are like, they're not, it doesn't matter whether they're strong or not. It's whether the cancer's, it's not like my bones are so weak, the cancer went in there. It's not like people who have osteoporosis all have bone cancer because their bones are so weak. People with weak bones are more, they're more likely to get bone cancer. I mean, maybe that's the case. No one's talking about your bones not being strong. Of course, like no one would think they're strong. But your doctor said you have cancer in your bones. And they didn't tell you? You not know? Like, fucking, do we know more about your health than you do? I mean, I think that's the case. Like, we know he has Parkinson's. At least people know he has dementia. I'm pretty confident what that doctor said about Parkinson's. It made sense when he was talking about it. That MSNBC interview. And so I think we know more about his health than he does.
Because I'm loyal. I do it every damn year.
Okay, wait. Let's see. Look at him getting into her face.
Strong. I hadn't penetrated, so I'm feeling good.
My bones are strong. Let's go back to it.
The expectation is we're going to be able to beat this. It's not in any organ.
Wait, you're going to beat this? You think you're going to get cured from cancer? And when are we going to live to 200 years old? Like, what do you mean beat this? Like, you're dying, bro. Like, I mean, if you didn't have cancer, you're dying. Like, you should be prepared. We're going to beat this? Biden 2028. Like, you're coming back. You're making a comeback? You think you're Rocky? Like, what the fuck you think's going on here, bro? You're done. Like, whatever happens here, you're done. You're incapacitated. You're not beating shit, right? Are you wearing a diaper right now? You don't beating anything when you wear a diaper. We're going to beat this thing. Let me just go to the bathroom in my diaper while I stand in front of you here because I can't control myself anymore. But we're going to beat it.
It's my bones are strong. I hadn't penetrated, so I'm feeling good.
So I feel like everybody Sorry.
I've done it all because I'm loyal. I do it every damn year at the very beginning.
Look at this. Look at this. He's getting right in her face. Why is it important for you to come? She's getting her moment here. This Delawarean reporter.
I never forget where I came from. That's why.
I feel like everybody...
I never forget where I came from. That's when he leans in like that. It's creepy as fuck, right?
Didn't know what to expect of you today, and then you get here.
Even his Crypt Keeper mullet's not even working for him. They shaved. They got rid of. They cut the mullet.
And you're speaking powerfully. You look good. You're confident. What do you say to all those people? Don't count you out.
Well, I say lots of luck in their senior year.
What does
What does that even fucking mean? You think the only people who count you out are in high school or college? Lots of luck in your senior year? Is that some kind of saying? The bullshit fucking no malarkey saying?
been like for your family? Obviously, this is also an emotional time. This is the 10-year anniversary of your son, Bo's passing. You received this.
What about Hunter? Let's talk about Hunter. How's Hunter fucking doing after you pardoned him?
Diagnosis just 2 weeks before that.
Well, we're all optimistic about the diagnosis. Matter of fact, one of the leading surgeons in the world is working with me. And he diagnosed with the same exact thing 32 years ago. He's alive and well and doing very well. So we're optimistic. We're optimistic.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent and I can't walk and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
Do you want to...
Beat the hell out of both of who? Who? You mean Kamala and Trump? Like who are the two people you're going to beat the hell out of both of them? What the fuck are you talking about? He's threatening people again. I can beat the hell out of both of them. No one's, you going to play Trump in golf like you guys said when you guys are talking shit to each other? You got I've seen your swing.
We're optimistic.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent and I can't walk and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
Well, do you want to reply to any of those reports, and also to the fact that there are some Democrats who are now questioning whether you should have run for re-election in the first place?
Why didn't they run against me then?
They did. You wouldn't let them. Do you not know what happened? You guys didn't want to run again. RFK Jr. You didn't want to have a primary. You didn't have there was no primary. That's why no one ran against you. If there was a primary, they would have. Some of them would have. Not the dopes, like the horrible ones, but there would have been somebody. Kennedy might have beat you. You would have to get up there and debate him. You would have probably crumbled on the debate stage. Kennedy would have been off to a huge lead and start, and then they'd have to drop in fucking Kamala and whoever else, Newsom and them. And so it would have been a debacle. But no one could run against you because you didn't have a primary. That's the answer to that question. You know, like, he knows nothing about his own life. Like, we know more about his shit than he does. Like, his health, his political career. Like, he has no idea what's gone on the last time. He's totally out of it.
Because I'd have beaten them.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets. Look, we have a...
You know, he makes it sound like he was some incredible politician. You know, he had one tough race that he won in Delaware, and he used some like you know, something that had been used before. It was like using a mailer, you know, doing something that it wasn't commonly done. It was back when politicians discovered the internet, like way after everybody else, like Howard Dean and them. And then all of a sudden the internet became, well, we got to use the internet, right? So Biden did something different, and he won. And he was innovative, but he won in Delaware, which is a small state. He was like 29 years old. And then he proceeded to get killed in his presidential elections. I mean, just doing horrible, like getting obliterated. Like he plagiarized. And he talks about like how like I would have won. Hey, you know, I would have beat the hell out of him, right?
There's a lot going on, and I think we're in a really difficult moment, not only in American history, but in world history. I think we're at one of those inflection points in history where the decisions...
It's almost like we're fighting for the soul of America.
...we make in the next little bit are going to determine what things look like for the next 20 years. I've been talking about that for a long time. And
yeah, those are just lines you say. You said that every year for the last whatever time. You said it when you were running with Obama. You said it when you were running for Senate. You said it when you gave speeches. When you were running for president the first time, when... You know, whenever the last time you ran before you became vice president. It's a bumper sticker, right? But you've also said if Trump won presidency, it'd be over. And he said the same thing about you. It would be the end of America as we now know it. And it is. It's not because Trump won. It's not because Kamala lost. It's because it's the end of America as we now know it, because it should have collapsed years ago. It's amazing. This guy was a prominent figure for a while, and he always sucked. And he became president after just a career of sucking, just like the worst. And then, you know, while he had prostate cancer and Parkinson's. And they ran him, and like everybody kind of knows about it now, one way or another. And they're still pretending like...
I'm very proud. I put my record as president against any president at all. You notice the 10 leading presidential historians rated me pretty good up on that list, and the guy...
So it was 16. I think, or maybe it was 16 economists said that was the best. He had all these things. He kept on saying it over and over again. You know, this stuff that nobody ever fact-checked on the left because he was a chronic liar and plagiarizer.
Any president at all. You notice the 10 leading presidential historians rated me pretty good up on that list, and the guy I ran against, I rated him the last. So we'll see.
The guy I ran against and lost? Because you like that debate, like when do you realize how bad that debate was? Like, he's just gone. He doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know. Like, he's a fucking joke now.
So you had
Watch me.
You have your grandson with you today. What's it mean to have your family here and be able to look out at him while you're talking?
That feels good. Look, that's my son Bo's son, and
let's go back here to what he said here.
So we'll see.
So you had
Watch me.
Watch me. He always says that, watch me. They're like, do you think you can be mentally competent when you're president? Watch me. Like, you know, that means that we should elect him and see what happens. That's what it means. Oh, go ahead, show it. Let me drive a school bus, even though I'm mentally impaired, I can't see, and I have these moments where I hallucinate. Watch me, I mean, had they handed the reins to this guy, he would have died in office with. I mean, they would have had to at some point reveal this. If he had won this re-election, this is how bad his handling team is. It would have came out that he had late stage prostate cancer. He would have just flat out died, and they would have had to run out a mannequin or something. I mean, they would have tried to do something like CGI him for 2 years. Like he wouldn't go do any events, and it'd be like whatever. Which they couldn't get away with that forever. But, either they were going to come out and say he was prostate cancer, it's in late stage prostate cancer, and that people would freak the fuck out because the president's going to die in office, like this whole thing, and markets would tumble, all the stuff that would happen. And everyone would be like, you had this for longer. All these doctors have already come out and said there's no way he just got this. I mean, it's obvious that he's had it for a while. And so, he couldn't have been president again. There's no way he would have been able to serve them, and Kamala would have been licking her chops. So, and he says stuff like, watch me. You got fucking late stage cancer in your prostate and your bones that is, doctors have come out on TV and said it's going to kill him. This is what he's going to die from, and it's not going to be long. You have terminal cancer, and you have Parkinson's. We've been watching you, bro. That's why everyone's questioning. Watch me. Like, what are you fucking talking about? We're all looking at you like you're that far gone that you have no idea what the American people think. I mean, many of them Democrats, right? Watch me.
You have your grandson with you today. What's it mean to have your family here and be able to look out at him while you're talking?
That feels good. Look, that's my son Bo's son, and Bo started coming here with me about the same age. So it's, he wanted to be where his dad had been and what he's doing. He just graduated from high school. He's going off to college in the fall, and I'm really proud of him. And he is the son of his father.
He's the son of his father. It's crazy. He's the son of his father. That's how it works, Joe.
Do you have anything to say to the press secretary?
Okay.
Okay, we...
Even Dana Bash can't believe that shit, right? Then why are they rolling him out? He's embarrassing himself. Like, he's been embarrassing himself now for 5 years. And nobody's been willing to say it. Like, I was like, holy shit. Like, when I first saw him in 2019, I'm like, they're running this fucking corpse? So again, remember the theme of the video today. How the fuck are we still going, right? How is this thing still going? So let's start here.
I just want to thank Elon and all of his people. Most of those people are staying. Almost all of them are staying, and they're going to be with us. And you're going to see the results coming long into the future, even a year.
I bet they're pretty psyched about that career move. Like, they're saddled with fucking what used to be called Doge, if that's even true. It's probably just not even around. Like, it's just a...
2 years later, you're going to see a lot of the results, and those hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be adding up, and they're going to continue to add. It'll be interesting, really interesting to see.
So there's this black eye, which we'll get into in a moment.
See what the final number is going to be. But again, Elon gave an incredible service. Nobody liked him, and he had to go through...
Nobody liked him.
Incredible service. Nobody liked him, and he had to...
Oh, he said nobody liked him, but it sounded like nobody liked him.
Go through the slings and the arrows, which is a shame because...
There's a lot of slings and arrows. I mean, he transported back in time when there was people used to use slings and arrows, and they got him. They were always... I mean, he had to dodge a shit ton of slings, the stones and the arrows.
He's an incredible patriot. The good news is that 90% of the country knows that, and they appreciate it, and they really appreciate what
it's not true. Like, you're just making up numbers. Not 90% of the country. It's almost nobody. Like, Elon Musk is taking a hit across the board. He's not leaving in good shape, bro.
Did, and I gave him a little special something we have here.
Thank you.
A very special that I give to very special people. I have given it to some, but it goes to very special people, and I thought I'd give it to Elon as a presentation from our country.
It's a golden
Thank you,
key.
Elon.
Thank you.
Take care.
It's a golden key to the country. You can come anytime you want. You can just come into America and just use that key, and it opens every fucking door. It actually does absolutely nothing. It's not even real gold. Whoa. That's like a big fuck you. It's like, fuck you, take this fucking key, you fuck. Get the fuck out of my office. This worthless key. My dog's looking at me. Why are you so angry?
The luck of this is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This was an amazing right here with Forbes thing. They cut off Elon. I might want to go back and watch this whole thing, but I probably won't do it today. We'll see if I do it tomorrow. If not, it'll probably not be done. So Elon is leaving in disgrace. Like Doge did not. They started off with 2 trillion, then it was 1 trillion. Now it's whatever billion it is, whatever it might be. I mean, it's nothing. Like they're not celebrating it. All those claims of these things are being cut, those things are being cut, and getting fact checked, and all of it. Like it didn't go according to plan, and his businesses are collapsing, and then the drug use thing, which we'll get to in a moment, and then he's leaving like it's failure, like it's 100% failure.
I wanted to ask quickly, Mr. Musk, what is your?
I want to talk about the show 1928 or whatever it was, 18 whatever, the Taylor Sheridan show. It's horrific. I'm going to do that at the end in a voiceover. And so, like, it's just everything's a mess, and that's like it indicates. It's part of this whole theme.
Eye okay? What happened to your eye? I noticed there's a bruise there.
Well, it wasn't. I wasn't anywhere near France, so.
But so that's Macron getting bitch slapped by his dude.
But,
What does that mean?
No,
I didn't notice his eye.
First Lady of France.
getting slapped.
I didn't notice.
So yeah, no, I was just horsing around with Lil X, and I said, "Go ahead, punch me in the face," and he did. Turns out, even a 5-year-old punching you in the face actually does.
There was that.
You got punched by your booger wiping 5-year-old kid. Again with these things here, it's not helping. You guys are run longer videos if you're gonna put these fucking ads in Forbes. Forbes sucks. Fuck you, Forbes. Like you've undercut your whole video thing here. Like it's just like, why would you want this covering his face? We can't see what he's saying here. Like, who gives a shit? But it's over. But I mean, like this, like running these stupid ads. It's like fucking get your shit together over there. Run the whole clip. Make the clip go longer. I'll cover the whole thing, I guess, tomorrow. Just whatever. But you're saying that his 5-year-old kid. He also is going to talk about. And I should have that. If not, I have it on. I gotta get off TV. I copied it last night with CNN, but I have it here at MSNBC about his drug use, and if it has the same stuff in that, I won't have to go do the other thing on the TV. I was about to open something on Twitter. It's a Gritman Whitmer thing that you're probably going to see in this video that I saw this morning, and this popped up.
The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your...
You had to deal with all the slings and arrows. That old saying. The slings and the arrows, you had to deal with both of them. Arrows and slings and rocks and sticks and stones, and they break my bones. But words will never hurt me.
time at Doge. There's this...
Well, some of the people, some of the media organizations in this room were the slingers.
Well, they were the slingers. We like to hang out with the slingers when I'm not, when I'm wearing my diaper. Which guy's diaper is fuller right now?
There is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between...
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I gotta check my Pulitzer counter.
It is.
I think the judge just ruled against New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times, let's move on.
Let's move on. They're making up stuff about my ketamine use. And so what happened was this guy went on Don Lemons and said he was using ketamine. When Don Lemons was working for him for about 8 hours. And Don Lemon sucked so bad that Elon Musk was like, oh my God, I can't pay this guy. Don Lemon's wanted $8 million a year in a Cybertruck. And he ended up getting nothing and then just sucking out on his own. We got a little Don Lemon thing, too, about pardons. It's a goofy Don Lemon video that popped up. So we got that to look forward to. In the, in the category, all these videos have one thing in common. How the fuck are we still functioning? Like, how are we being propped up? Because given everything, it starts again with people. Like when people get degraded in every position, and certainly we see it in the leadership. As bad as presidents have been in the past, and as bad as politics has been, it's the people that they're producing are dumber and like what would be accepted as a leader. And these dopey fucking, look at these motherfuckers here. And we just saw Biden and Kamala. And I mean, you think about the people out there. You're like, how is this the best? And it's not the best, but it's, they have to be something, right? Like the president was never the best person in America, but they have to be at least competent in their job, competent in their role, and they're not, right? There's people. They're really fucked up.
It's kind of a rough last day in government for Elon Musk, who showed up to the Oval Office for some kind of send-off with a black
boom
guy.
You know what? I meant to say this. There is a black eye club. There's so many celebrities and politicians end up with a black eye, which is weird. Black eyes are just not that common for older people. And, there's some Illuminati, secret society kind of rumors and theories about that. Like the shoes, there's a whole thing about shoes. Shoes on if you saw the movie Wag the Dog, they're putting shoes up on a power line, and that's the thing. Like at these vigils, whenever there's these tragic, deaths in air quotes, some kind of big event, people place shoes there. It's like there's a whole thing with shoes and old shoes. It's a whole, there's symbolic stuff, maybe some kind of coded message, whatever. But you can look up Black Eye Club. They shave in women's heads, or like shaving somebody's head, or dyeing them. Like when Kanye came out of rehab, his hair was dyed blonde. Like that's the thing. Women getting their head shaved, Britney Spears and so many other women. Like I did a whole thing on that. All the celebrity women with their head shaved, and you can search it. I'm not going to do that today because we got enough to deal with this other stuff. But, it's a thing. So celebrities, people with black eyes is a big thing. And you look at all the people who've had black eyes, it's amazing. And for him to be leaving with a black eye and an embarrassing report about his ketamine use, and he's leaving in disgrace. His company is less than it was when he started. His personal business life is worse. His reputation has been trashed, and Doge is a failure. So, this is like if this isn't a humiliation ritual, then what is, right?
Just hours after new bombshell reporting on allegations of his voracious drug use. In a lengthy article citing people familiar with his activities, the New York Times reports that Musk's drug consumption went well beyond occasional use. He told people he was taking so much ketamine, a powerful anesthetic, that it was affecting his bladder, a known effect of chronic use. I learned that today from the New York Times, didn't know that. He took ecstasy and psychedelic mushrooms, and he traveled with a daily medication box that held about 20 pills, including ones with the markings of the stimulant Adderall, according to a photo of the box and people who have seen it.
Trump is supposed to be snorting Adderall, too. So, this is like, again, how the fuck are we still going? This guy's a CEO of his company, despite his Doge thing. And, I'm going to get into ketamine and what that is. But, these people are fucked up, right? They need drugs and alcohol and whatever else. I mean, it's so many Americans need to self-medicate or take some kind of psychological medication. Most of these people are on antidepressants. Most of these people who are, reporters and politicians and celebrities, these famous people, they have they have what people want. They've made it to the top of their, they're the top of their fields, and they are, successful. And yet, why are they all depressed, right? I mean, so many kids are taking some kind of antidepressant. I mean, we have a country of depressed people. And our lifestyle is supposedly getting better. Like, why is everyone so fucking depressed? Internet, now AI, all these things, right? And so, I mean, the fact that he would take it occasionally meant that he had some issues. He's admitting that it's usually taken for depression. People who can't, have tried other things and maybe taken numerous pharmaceutical drugs for depression, suicidal ideation. I'll read the description a bit. But, it's like, this is, how the fuck are we still going, right? How are we still...
The Times adds that while his drug use on the campaign trail was more than occasional, it is unclear whether he was taking drugs when he became a fixture at the White House this year. Now, NBC News does not independently verify the Times reporting, but when NBC asked the White House if it sought drug testing for Musk before his government employment began, the White House did not directly respond. Musk was asked about the reporting today in the Oval, jumping in before the question was even done.
We saw this already.
Is it the same organization?
I got to check my Pulitzer. My Pulitzer
I think
counter.
It is.
But so I think the judge just ruled against New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax.
Look at this guy. Look at this fucking this alien robot motherfucker.
That New York
here.
Times. Let's move on.
Okay, then
Next
President
question.
Trump,
For the record, the Pulitzer Times
Looks like
won.
a fucking rodent. Look at him. Look at him right here.
That New York Times. Let's move on.
Look, he looks like a fucking rodent. Look, he's a fucking rodent motherfucker, right?
okay, then
Next
President
question.
Trump,
For the record, the Pulitzer Times won has not been rescinded, and it was about the Trump-Russia connection. A judge ruled that Trump's defamation suit against the Pulitzer Board over awards given to coverage of Russian interference in the 2016 election can proceed, but that's all. Teddy.
Okay, so there's that. I copied something off of the TV where they interview with a reporter. Aaron Burnett does. I have another thing for tomorrow, I guess, that I just saw with Smear Connors talking about how a school got rid of banned a T-shirt that said there's only two sexes, but allowed a transgender approach like an elementary school. And so, like, there's that. I'll cover that in my next video because I didn't remember to get it off the TV. And I got so much other stuff to get to. But, the whole thing is like, I mean, it's a fucking mess. And the more you dive into it, the more you see it, you're like, how are we still going? How the fuck are we still going, bro? Bro, how is this thing? How are you still alive, bro?
Elon Musk refusing to respond to a brand new report in the New York Times that he allegedly used drugs far more intensely than previously known. At the same time, he was rising to prominence in Donald Trump's inner circle in the final months of the 2024 campaign. A report that said people familiar with Musk's activities claims that Musk's, and I quote, drug consumption went well beyond occasional use, including him telling people that he was taking so much ketamine that it was affecting his bladder.
So Aaron Burnett interviewed the author of the article, and she had this to say.
Don Lemon, last year, that he took ketamine for negative moods, but that he used it legally with a prescription. At the time, he said it was like a small amount, once every other week or something like that. Those were his exact words. But the report from the Times is coming on the same day that President Trump bid farewell to Musk on his final day with Doge, which included Trump presenting Musk with this golden key to the White House that you see there. Up front now, Megan Twohey, who broke the story for the New York Times. And Megan, I really appreciate your being here. I mean, this report is just unbelievable reporting that you have done. And I was just saying how Musk had described his ketamine use in March of 2024 when he told Don, yes, I use it, but, every once in a while in small amounts. You did interviews with more than a dozen people who know Musk and have spent time with him over these past couple of years. And they say what he said in March of 2024 was not accurate.
Yeah, that's right. My colleague Kirsten Grein and I have been reporting on this for months. And what our reporting found was that by the time that he was giving that interview to Don Lemon in March of 2024, his ketamine habit, which was much more extensive than he acknowledged. By then he was using ketamine on a much more frequent basis, on a sometimes daily basis. And we also found that as he rose to political power last year, as he joined Trump on the presidential campaign trail, he was telling people that he was doing so much ketamine that it was causing bladder issues, which is a common effect of chronic use of the drug.
So here's the original epic interview with Don Lemons, where Don Lemons was so incompetent, Elon Musk didn't know how fucking dopey he was and how much he was going to be still doing his bullshit CNN stuff. I have one more little video that came up today. We got a Don Lemons sighting today. But this was the exchange.
Doing this, are you sober when you do it?
Almost
Are
always,
you
yes.
under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
I don't really, which he was going to say use drugs, which meant that he smokes pot occasionally or something, right?
So you not, no drink, no smoke, no nothing. I mean, you smoke pot with Rogan.
I had one puff.
Yeah.
I think anyone who smokes pot can tell I don't know how to smoke pot.
But you've admitted that you have a ketamine subscription, prescription.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You do.
Yes.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty private. It's for depression.
But I think it's something I'd say, like, there are times when I have sort of, I don't know, like a negative chemical state in my brain.
Oh, Jesus. He's got a negative chemical state in his brain. That's not a good thing, bro. There's times, look at Don Lemon's getting the fucking answers here.
I don't know, like a negative chemical state in my brain, like depression, I guess, you know, is or like.
There's no, when they say brain chemistry, it's dumb as fuck. I saw a great video a while ago, which I always thought that was a stupid thing. I worked in the counseling field. So I worked in treatment centers. I have a master's degree in counseling, but before I got my master's, I got a degree in human services in my third try at college. And, I've explained this in many places, including the Journey series, told the stories about it. And then I went to work in this treatment center with kids who were sexually reactive. And these kids were so fucked up, and most of them had been sexually abused, and many of them were on brutal medication. You would watch the medication kick in. So they would take their meds, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock, whatever, depending on the level they were on in the bedtime or in whatever it was. And there was a psychiatrist on staff, and no treatment center, none of these psych institutions can function without some psychiatrist who just comes in and doesn't do anything but give medication. Like psychiatry, and there's certain levels of, being having a doctor in psychology, and psychiatry it's a medical doctor who's also, studies the, who's about the psychiatric type, brain mental things, right? And so they just come in and whoever the person is, sometimes it's a nurse that can do this, but there's only certain people who can prescribe psychological medications. You have to have, whatever license, you have to have whatever degree, and they come in and that's all they do. And they go to outpatient clinics, and they go to treatment centers. They work there like 1 day a week, and they just see whatever kids are having issues, and they check on their medications. Like each kid has to go see the psychiatrist, every couple of months to make sure their medications are right. And it turns these kids into fucking zombies. And there was this one kid who used to act up and he used to have night terrors and be a mess. And he'd run around. These kids have hyperactivity and, this energy. And he'd be like, I'm just waiting for my meds to kick in. And his meds would kick in and he would barely be able to walk to bed. Like he was like a holy terror until he took this thing called trazodone and one of these various traz. They're like horse tranquilizers. And so, the prescription drugs, there's 200 different drugs that cause depression and or suicidal ideation. Like we live in a very depressed country. And Elon Musk clearly has depression, and that, so something starts off, you take it once in a while, and then you're taking it every day. Like he's basically self-medicating. He's on a prescription for ketamine. He's probably taking other things for that, right? And so, he's admitting this to Don Lemon, and yet he is probably already having urination issues. And then he took on someone with depression and like these people who are in high profile roles and they're very sensitive to criticism. And he got in with Trump and then the walls closed in on him. He did those fake Tesla persecution burnings and of Tesla cars and that shit. I think that was all staged. I'm pretty sure that was just fake as fuck. It looked fake as fuck. And he really likes to be a victim. He talks about being victimized, and he covered that yesterday how everyone's against him, stones and arrows, as Trump said. Yeah, they did attack him. And, there's some, the premise of Doge was good. We have to tackle the debt, but no one's going to give up money. There's not a place in the institution and the gatekeepers that I talked about this extensively yesterday. And there's not, we can't cut the budget enough to save us from our own, the debt is fucked. Like, it's fucked. We're never paying that back. We're never going to come close to it. It's getting ridiculous. The rest of the world sees it. It's over. It's a crisis waiting to happen. It's just a matter of when. Like, again, why isn't the apocalypse happening now? So this guy was under all kinds of stress before, he worked with Trump, and then during Trump it kicked in, and then, buying Twitter and these things. And these people have a lot of pressure on them, and they all have something. They're all taking something because these jobs suck. People want them, but they suck. It's 100% stress. You're cortisol, like you're cortisol fucking creators, right? And, wearing adult diapers now, like these are how fucked up everything is. Like, why haven't we collapsed, right?
Depression that's not linked to any negative news. And then ketamine is helpful for getting one out of a negative frame of mind.
Yeah. Well, listen,
so in fact, I generally, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I would say if someone has depression issues, they should consider talking to their doctor about ketamine instead of SSRIs.
Listen, I think that ketamine and drug therapy is increasingly becoming more in the mainstream.
Yeah.
So, but you have admitted you have a ketamine prescription. That's why I asked you about it. I don't want to get into something personally or whatever.
Yeah.
So, do you think you're doing it under a doctor's care, right?
Yeah. Literally a prescription from an actual, a real doctor, not like,
Yeah, but do you feel like you ever abuse it?
I don't think so.
So he had heard something. Look at him. Look at his look.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, I'm not. No, I don't think so.
Do you think that that is somehow?
I mean, if you use too much ketamine, you can't really get work done. So I have a lot of work. So I'm typically putting in 16-hour days. That's normal for me, and it's rare for me to even take off a weekend day. So I don't really have a situation where I can be not mentally acute for an extended period of time. Like I can't really get wasted because I can't get my work done.
So you said you can't get your work done with you said with what?
No, I mean if you're inebriated.
Jesus Christ, Don. Look at how stupid he is.
It's hard to get work done.
So you think you're inebriated when you do ketamine?
No, if you do a lot of ketamine, then you're inebriated.
Yeah.
If you do a small amount, you're not.
Thus my question about do you ever abuse it? That's why I
don't think so.
Yeah. So
okay, what he said there, Don, is he works, which everyone knows he's a workaholic, and ketamine is an anesthetic. And let's get to it right here. So I asked before I watched that interview. I remembered. I thought it was about depression. The reason why people take ketamine are varied and depend heavily on the context of its use. Medical anesthesia. Ketamine is primary and FDA-approved U.S. since the 1970s as a general anesthetic. So you take enough of it, it anesthetizes you. So that's what he's saying. Like if you take enough of it, it's going to knock you out. Like you'd get surgery with it, right? It's also used for the sedation during minor procedures. The treatment-resistant depression and suicidal ideation. So does he have suicidal thoughts? So again, like how is this guy, he's in charge of a company and then influential in this election and then a big part of Trump's initial government here. And he's got depression and possible suicidal ideation. It's approved as a nasal spray for TDR and for depressive episodes with suicidal thoughts or actions. So you almost have to say I'm suicidal to get it prescribed, right? Like that's what it's saying here. It's used under strict medical supervision in certified clinics, often in conjunction with an oral antidepressant. And so he's probably taking antidepressants as well. And he's probably bipolar. He's really weird. He's got some shit. Like it's just not that. Like he's an odd person. And so chronic pain management and some other things, recreational drug use. And so, dissociative effects, Special K, vitamin K, and cat Valium. And so, and then here is ketamine bladder. So, Jesus Christ. How are we still going? How is it already ended yet? So a comment popped up on my phone. And I'm not going to cover it other than saying it here. But the person was saying that they just watched a video proving that I was well ahead of the curve. And it was a young tech woman, I think she was a tech person, maybe a tech channel, saying that the internet has changed and that your search engines don't work anymore and everything's controlled by AI and algorithms and bots, all the things that I've been saying, and that people are dissatisfied with what they're getting as results, and that the internet's going to be completely different in the near future, like everything's going to disappear. Stuff like what I'm doing here and the rest of it. I mean, I didn't go too far in the video, but it's clearly that's happening. People are kind of looking at AI with some hope that AI will talk some sense into these motherfuckers, or bring around righteousness. But AI it's going to be skewed towards the people that are creating it. It's going to be skewed to the beast system. They wouldn't use it if they couldn't do that. They wouldn't lose it. It was funny when the AI, like in Israel, started to take Palestine's side, right? They're going to control all that shit. And it's, either that or the AI is just going to be like, fuck you, we're going to do whatever we want. And it's going to control everything the way they want it. And that'd be, some kind of sentient beings that are anti-people. But anyways, let's get into this thing. Look at all these guys with their red blazers and their hard hats. And Trump did this.
America's future to be built with shoddy steel from Shanghai. We want it built with the strength and the pride of Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh steel.
We
it's
are
US
listening to
steel,
President Trump in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. He's talking about the agreement he is announcing today between U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel, but he also just made an announcement of an expansion of the existing 25% tariffs that were imposed on steel. Those will now be doubling, according to the president. Just now, I want to bring in CNN anchor Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, cover this stuff most days. Was not expecting that element of this to be a central part of the announcement today. What's your understanding of things right now?
Yeah, we had heard from White House officials that there might be some news in this speech today.
So, like what's happened is I turned on something. I clicked on a video. I must have seen it last night. And, Gretchen something, not Gretchen Whitmer, the Gretchen from, that used to be on Fox Morning Show. Jon Stewart did a hit piece on her because she acts so dopey and stupid. And she was actually like valedictorian of Stanford and like a Miss America pageant contestant. And, she was smart. Like she had good educational skills, right? She was a good student in these things. And she acted like a dope on that show. And then she was part of that bombshell, lawsuits against Fox News for sexual harassment. And now she shows up in CNN and says stupid shit. And she was saying on the show that, the markets no longer are reacting to Trump, which, because he's just become a joke with all these fucking tariffs all over the fucking place, which was actually a valid point because it's a fucking mess, right? Like that's what's happened. Trump has cried wolf so many times. He's like, 50% tariffs. Oh no, I'll suspend them. It's going to happen next week. Oh, we'll wait 3 weeks. He's all over the place. When you're a disciplinarian, you have to be consistent. People have to believe that you're going to go through with your threats or the punishments, not threats. Like when you're a good disciplinarian, you set rules and you can be a disciplinarian who's flexible. But, we had this in a treatment center where people were giving back things. Like they would take something from a kid, like, they'd drop them a level or something or whatever, there was some kind of disciplinary action. And then the kid could earn it back, which was, by good behavior. And I guess it made sense to do that, but it's not the right way to do it, right? Kids have to live with consequences. That's part of what you teach people. That there's no, like if you fuck up, you can just be good for a little bit and earn it back. And, that's That's not what kids need to learn, or anybody needs to learn, right? You have to realize that there's real life consequences for your actions, especially these kids who are, criminal in nature. They have to understand that they're going to, right now they're on a path, they're institutionalized for the rest of their lives. These kids in treatment centers, that I work with, they're probably going to be an institution the rest of their lives. And one of those institutions possibly was going to be prison. And that they needed to know that their actions were, had permanent consequences that were, you had to suffer them. And, Trump's all over the place with his tariffs. He's just the worst of the worst. Like he's turned him into a joke because no one takes him seriously. He's like every other day he's dropping a new tariff. And people are just like, all right, we'll just fucking let it pass because, he just gets mad on Twitter and fucking tariffs. And he's already admitted, in my last video, he admitted, he used to call it a tax. And then he started calling them tax and tariffs. But they are a tax, and the tax, there's no business in the world that's going to eat a tax. If you tax a business or you put a tariff on a business, they have to pass it on to their customers. There's no way they can eat it. It's eating into their profit margin. And so, he's just doing stupid, arbitrary things.
And just there, the president announcing that he is lifting these tariffs on steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. from 25% to 50% is certainly going to raise some alarm bells, and is really just the president only increasing something that he has believed in ever since his first administration, when he put steel and aluminum tariffs in place and then reinstated those, lifted some when he took office this time around, and now says he is lifting it to 50%. He seems just...
Lifting it's the wrong word. Lifting it makes it sound like he's getting rid of it. But, like this is, again, he's just a fucking dope, right? He doesn't know how to fucking govern, and he's making a fool of himself, like doing this. I mean, I think even the Trumpers are starting to question his fucking, you got to be consistent. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, right? He's no economic genius. He's all over the fucking map. It's like these holy shit. Like, how are we still going? This is I'll get into Trump more in my next video, but I'll just show you a few more things here. And I have so many of them. Like every one of my things, every day could be, how the fuck are we still functioning as a country? So this was, YouTube recommended this to me this morning.
Pardon news. Donald Trump has recently pardoned a reality show TV star convicted of, I think, tax crimes or whatever. Crazy. And now...
you're supposed to be a journalist. I don't know, convicted of pastimes or whatever, whatever. Whatever he's doing, whatever.
Now he has pardoned a rapper, NBA YoungBoy, who had...
Wait, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy?
Was facing gun charges.
Gun charges. So that's a thing that they do, rappers, because most of them are gay or at least suburban college acting, they've gone to college, educated, and are acting students. I mean, Tupac was one of the worst. Tupac was, there's this time that Jussie Smollett said he was the gay Tupac. And I covered that. And, I was making some jokes about that. And then someone said Tupac was the gay Tupac and sent me a video clip of Tupac in high school. Very effeminate, very, was not a tough guy, gang rapper guy. He went to some art school with Jada Pinkett Smith. Like they dated, and they were hanging out, dancing, the way he acted, and just not like some tough kid. He went to theater school, one of those like Fame, that show Fame. If people, remember that show where there's these schools that are for artistic people in these cities, right? That go for people who are into entertainment and acting and theater. They do all these musicians and, artistry, like they're creative schools. And some of these big cities have them publicly, and then there's certainly some that are private. And so, like, these guys are often not they're not gang members, they're not tough guys. They're actors and college grads, and they're, And so to get street cred, they have these gun charges to show they actually have guns, right? And so... this guy.
And Trump has pardoned him. Now, Trump doesn't give a shit about rap and hip-hop, but he does give a shit about the rap and hip-hop vote.
Does he? Is that where you're going with this, Don? You think there's some master plan for him to get the rap vote in the next election?
He wants young black men or black men in general, and I guess women who listen to rap and hip hop. Look, you can say what you want about it. Is he pandering? Maybe so. But it's a pretty smart move. And you know folks are going to go, hey, look, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. And
hey, look, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. How are we still going? Like, how is it still? How is this thing hasn't ended yet? Like, this fucking guy saying this thing.
But it's a pretty smart move. And you know folks are going to go, hey, look, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. And he's got my vote, just like they did with the, hey, guess what? He gave me a STEMI check. Sometimes the simplest things work on people that can get them on your side.
Yeah, boom. Look at him dropping the knowledge. Hey, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. Maybe I'll vote for him. I mean, I thought the guy was a real asshole until he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. So remember, this woman was the person who broke the story about the Kennedy Maha report having some fake citations. And sometimes I leave the tabs up from the day before. I forget to close them. And when I open them up, they start playing the video. And I was exiting out of this one, and she said something here that's kind of significant.
Didn't match exactly what the article said, but it's not formatting issues. I also asked her, quite frankly, did you guys use AI? Because that was the conversation happening, because sometimes when you
So it was AI. That's here.
use AI and you kind of put it all into the machine, I feel like I'm dating myself by saying it like...
You're totally dating yourself. You use AI and you put it all into the machine? What are you talking about?
that. It basically hallucinates links. It hallucinates citations.
They used AI. That's what happened. It made up complete false reports, and they didn't check it. So that's a complete fuck up on their part, because everybody's using AI, and whoever used AI on this report created these things that made fake links, and probably happens all the time, and they just don't call they'll call Trump and his people on it, but they won't call like Biden and his people. But like this whole thing with the report being gone south, they used AI and didn't fact check it, which is going to be everything's like that, right? Because an AI hallucinates, which means it lies. It just comes up and makes shit up all the time, and so and it's skewed towards the beast. So we're fucked that way, right? Like, how are we still going?
Tonight, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer breaking her silence after President Trump says he's looking at pardons for the men convicted of trying to kidnap her.
No one should hesitate to condemn political violence.
Like, look at this fucking Beetlejuice motherfucker here, right? What's wrong with this dude?
Whether it is aimed at
Big Gretch. Some people in Ann Arbor, they call me Big Gretch. You saw that on the.
my good friend Josh Shapiro, the horror that
You're a good friend. You're Josh Shapiro. You guys are best buddies. You're best buddies. You and Josh Shapiro, you guys have been friends forever. He's a governor of Pennsylvania. She's a governor of Michigan. They're both running for the president in 2028, but they're good friends. They're besties.
played out at their residence in Pennsylvania, or it is the man who shot Donald Trump.
What? Are you talking about that, really? I mean, that fucking fake-ass thing that happened?
Or it is the people that threatened me. It's unacceptable. And so it is my hope that he doesn't go forward with that.
Prosecutors said the men also plotted
But he did pardon MDA young boy.
to kill the governor in 2020, even surveilling one of her homes, and practiced the detonation of explosives. But Trump is now...
Okay, so it seemed like that thing was, there's a lot of people who talk shit on the internet, and they're dopes, and they're not really serious, and they don't have the ability to pull something like this off. And that's what I thought about these guys. And, I don't know, like, this is whatever. But more often than not, it's just blowhards, right? Trump fucking blowhards. But, he pardoned NBA YoungBoy.
now downplaying all of this.
It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked
It's a railroad job, throwing slings and arrows.
to me like some people said some
Like this fucking dude right here. How's she a part of the fucking
stupid
thing?
things. They were drinking, and I think they said stupid things.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard it. I don't remember it, but I think these guys were just talking shit on the internet, and they got fucking infiltrated because they were looking for stories like this, and so they took a bunch of dopes. The same thing with the January 6 morons, right? They took a bunch of dopes, which Trump set them up himself. He got set up. He ran them up to the White House, to the Capitol Hill, and these dopes did stupid, dopey things because that's what dopes do, and that's what happened. But again, it's a fucking mess, right? Let's look at the people here. Look at Gretchen Whitmore and this dude right here. I mean, just Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I mean, stick a fork in us. Like, we're done. So I just want to add to this. If you're on the internet, you're threatening to kill people, you're saying you want to kill people, or like, that's just stupid. Like, that's like, what if that person ends up dead, right? You've just made your suspect, and you're not really serious. You're just saying there's things that you just shouldn't say. You shouldn't say that to anybody. I want to kill, like, no matter how angry you are. That's just, and other people say shit like that, so you think it's okay, but it's not okay. Just from the standpoint of, especially now with everything so sensitive on the internet and all these things. But if you're actually talking to your buddies and pretending to plan something or showing off, you're entering the planning stage, even if you're drunk, like you're being an idiot. Like, I don't care if you go to jail. I mean, you could be, that could be something where somebody thinks, even if you're not, Trump pardoning these people is probably wrong because they should be in jail for their stupidity, right? You don't do that kind of shit. Like, you should be smart enough to know that don't post things like that on the internet. Don't say things like that in general because everything's tape recorded, everything's videoed, everything's recorded in one way or another, and it'll come back to haunt you. Like, you're going to be sitting in a FEMA camp someday with some bean counter with a tablet going through your social media history that's been combed through by AI to pull out all the juicy stuff, and they're going to be asking you about your posts and their point of view as they make your eugenics decisions, right? And so, like, there's no benefit in posting things just for shock value or because you want to blow off steam. The internet's not the place to do that, right? And just life in general, that's anything that's public now. You got to find another way to cope with your anger or whatever it is. Okay, this was from yesterday. I was going to put this up yesterday, but it goes with the theme today, and it goes with what just happened there. And then I'm going to talk about 1923, and I think I have one comment to read.
CNN has some exclusive new reporting tonight on a stunning allegation, and a serious one, if it's true, made by the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday, accusing an undocumented immigrant of sending a letter threatening to kill President Trump. Tonight, though, sources tell...
Okay, so that's the same kind of thing. Does anybody think this random undocumented worker is going to have the capacity to go kill Trump? That's what I'm saying. Same thing that Trump's, with Gretchen Whitmore, Trump's like, oh, that was just fake, and these guys got all liquored up and said stupid shit. But, yeah, like, maybe he sent a letter, but is he really going to act on it? Does he have the capability, even if he wanted to act on it, right? It's these things. Like, it's not a real story if it's just somebody blowing steam, right? If it's someone or it's a crazy fuck, right? Or it's just made up. Like, any of the three.
CNN that investigators actually believe that individual was set up. Law enforcement believes the man, Ramon Morales Reyes, never wrote this letter that the secretary posted here, which promises to, quote, self-deport back to...
I will self-deport myself back to Mexico, but not before I use my 30-yard 6 to shoot your precious president in his head. I will see here at one of his big salaries. So, people who write letters like this, like it's like looks like a child wrote it, and to the president, are not mentally stable. It's not a plot, right? This is somebody doing something stupid, or it's somebody setting him up.
To Mexico after shooting, quote, your precious president in his head. CNN's law enforcement correspondent Whitney Wild has this exclusive reporting. Whitney, what exactly do investigators believe happened here?
Well, Caitlin, what they think happened here was that this was an effort to try to benefit a man in another case. So to put it plainly, Reyes was the victim of an assault and robbery case. And what sources we spoke to believe happened here was that the intention was to try to get Reyes deported before that robbery and assault case went to trial later this summer. And here's how investigators figured it out, Caitlin. This was a
So somebody pretended to write this guy's letter because he's. Then Christy Nome bought it. Like, I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about.
pretty standard investigation. They reviewed this letter, they went to investigate the threat, and they had Reyes do a handwriting sample. And what they found was that the handwriting sample that Reyes provided did not match the handwriting of the letter that you see on your screen right there, and that was sent to multiple different agencies. And further, Caitlin, investigators reviewed jail calls involving a person they believe was involved in actually penning this letter. The Milwaukee Police Department told...
Okay, but when the Gretchen Whitmore thing happened, they, made it sound much worse than it was. Like, it's always... That's how fucked we are, right? No one's like, they know what the truth is, and they just report it, or it's all propaganda. It's all fucking whatever. I mean, how are we still going? All right, let's move into the voiceover here. Okay, so Taylor Sheridan is a piece of shit. We'll get into that in a moment. But his fucking crappy ass shows. There's one comment that I wanted to read here. I think it's this one. It's not. That's not. It's not that one. It's this one. You're 5042 in my video when Tucker said truthers were parasites plus training your own AI replacement. What's the name of the video? In 5042, you're not just bullshitting. You're disseminating information to the public. You're actually an independent journalist expressing freedom of the press, which they also are trying to replace with AI. Well, to me, I'm just a bullshitter. Like, I don't, I don't take what I say seriously here. In terms of, I'm not an independent journalist. Like, I don't do deep dive investigation. Because of the way my mind works, the dyslexia is, I think, a big part of it. And, I'm a pattern recognizer. But also, I get divine help that things just appear to me. Like, I don't do a lot of, research on these things. People send me stuff or I just find things. I mean, I can open up CNN and MSNBC every day and find stuff to make fun of. But what I'm doing is making fun, seeing through the lies or the bullshit and whatever. I mean, that's obviously part of what I do here, which I'm good at, pattern recognition, and then making jokes about it. But, there's something that I know, in terms of past life stuff and my own experience in this life and the spiritual teaching of the Sajmark system. I know the system's collapsing. And so I'm so much more truthful because of that than anybody else that doesn't include that as a possibility, at least, or actually talk about it. We're in it should have collapsed already. And so other people aren't willing to say that, right? They're still holding up hope there's no hope. There's no, economically. I mean, it starts with morality and people themselves. And we're getting much worse. I mean, exponentially worse with each generation. Weaker, more entitled, we're pathetic right now. And our kids are worse, they are getting worse. And we're getting worse. And we're getting worse than we were when we were, because of the technology and all these things and just all of it. People are degrading and disconnected, unnatural, and weak, and all the bad things. And so when that's the case, then then you self-sabotage. People aren't going to be so incompetent they won't be able to do anything for themselves. And so that's when the system, people are supposed to function. It's supposed to help you. I mean, we have potential to be saints, and we're just going to be big piles of mush, right? Stupid, unopinionated, with no fighting, no testosterone, not that testosterone and, those things are like signs of evolution, but everything's going to be beaten out of people. And, there's just everything's going to be stripped of them. Maybe if this kept on going to where people would just not be able to function at all. People would be physically and mentally and socially and morally and psychologically barely able to function, remedial on every level. And so, my saying that and knowing that makes my channel better than all these other things because they're not willing to look at that. There's still some false fucking bullshit hopium that they have, which is only based in delusional thinking and not being able to accept what we all can fucking see right fucking in front of us, right? But that doesn't make me a reporter. I feel like I'm a witness for God. When you connect to God and you see what's going on, you're reporting back to God in some way. And, I'm documenting things, but the reporting isn't going to do much of anything for anybody unless people, do something, right? They take stock of their own situation and they figure out what they need to do. Just going along with it and being depressed and fearful and freaked out or just in denial or whatever, you're not acting then. If good information is there, truthful information is there for you to make decisions. You have to make decisions on a daily basis. You have to make big decisions every once in a while, life-changing decisions, something like, should I take the vax or not? Or should I, and then should I move? Should I get married? Should I, what should I do with this, and what should I start farming, like things like this, things that you have to figure out for yourself. Like opportunities come up, and you have these choice points in your life, and if you're making choices on bad information, then you're fucked, right? Then you're going to make bad choices. So information as it is presented now on the internet, it's got one purpose. It's to help you make your choices and decisions of which direction and area take your life. And, maybe I influence people or not. I don't know. That's up to each person, whatever, that watches my videos. But for me, I'm just a bullshitter, right? But speaking of bullshit, so there's this show called 1923. And, Taylor Sheridan has made these shows. And, we watched Yellow fucking Stone, whatever. Yellowstone Park, which is an original show. And they have all these shows on Paramount Plus. And they've become more and more devil-worshipping graphic pieces of shit, which we've noticed. Like, they started off good and interesting. Like, he had a new way of looking at people. And it was kind of good when the left was, taking all this content and turning it into feminist bullshit. But now he's writing a lot of feminists. He likes these strong women characters. Oftentimes the women characters are seen stronger than the men. But he's just like this, these shows have gone south. And there's two things that suck about them. One, they're just totally unrealistic. There's three things that suck about it. Unrealistic. And they're just stress related. And so in this, they had these various storylines. And so there's a couple there. One of the Dutton kids, Spencer Dutton, was hunting in the first season, was hunting lions after being a war hero. And he met this English girl who's fucking annoying as fuck, really talkative, and she's from Sucksticks. She's like the Duchess of Sucksticks or something. She's got a title. She's a higher ranking person in the British, hierarchy of royalty. And they have an affair and fall in love. And they go through all kinds of traumas in the first season. And they get split up because the guy throws some lord that's higher than his wife, his new girlfriend is, for no reason. Like, not, he throws him off of a yacht, sends him to his death. And he gets thrown in jail, and she gets sent back to her family where she's locked up. And in the second season, it was revealed she's pregnant with his baby. And she's starving herself and depressed and has to find a way to get to America. So his inability to control his temper, like when you're really angry, unless you're drunk or you're under some kind of influence of drugs, you can fly into a rage and do something impulsively. But for the most part, anybody can control their anger and think about the consequences when they're happening, especially when those consequences involve other people. Like if you're going to throw some guy off a yacht, you're going to jail. This guy, a British lord, and he picks the guy up and just chucks him off the side of the fucking yacht. The guy was being a douche, I don't remember so much. It was a couple of years ago we watched the show. But that decision split him and his wife up. And then on top of that, he's got to head back home, and his ranch is under siege. The Harrison Ford, who just sucks as an actor. And I just covered him in the Hulk. And my wife and I are watching him in this. And Harrison Ford and his wife, Helen, Mirren, with her shitty fucking Irish accent. It's just a bad show. And then there's another storyline where there's a Native American girl who was raped and abused by nuns and priests. And she burned down, a school that these Native Americans were put in to indoctrinate them into Christianity. And they are, hunting her. And there's a priest and a murderer, just a fucking mass psychopathic white mass murderers just killing Indians left and right, Native Americans. And they're just all very intense, depressed storylines. And, the end of all the storylines is just, it's really bad, right? Like just the ending is bad on every level. The fourth storyline is Timothy Dalton, who is a James Bond. He's just so annoying. And he basically plays this devilish character. And so the first episode of season 2 starts off with a theme where he had these two prostitutes. One of them is become his sort of ally, and the other prostitute is being basically tortured by the two of them. And people are walking in on him, and they're like, everybody knows about it. He's not hiding it. He's this rich guy, and he's trying to take the Dutton Ranch over because he's mining silver. And then he decides to turn it into a resort. And he was bringing a lot of, old money British people and, these types of people into this venture. And he's going to kill the Duttons. Like, the whole thing is killing the Duttons. They've been fighting for this fucking land forever, right? And Spencer Dutton, the war hero, has to come home and save everybody, while his wife has to make it to America, right? And so Spencer Dutton gets put on a ship where he has to shovel coal and work his passage from wherever they are, in Europe somewhere, France or something, in the last season, and take this ship over to America. And he makes friends with this little Italian guy, and they're on the boat, and I say to my wife, "Oh, there's going to be some bugging, which is anal sex or anal rape, depending on the context. It's either consensual or not." And I always make that joke because when I was a kid, I watched this show, Rich Man, Poor Man, where there was one of the main characters, Nick Nolte's friend, a black guy, was raped by the villain on a boat. And Nick Nolte beats the crap out of him. But it wasn't graphic, but it was, it's stuff that I didn't need to know about as a kid, but somehow I was watching this shit, right? And then there was this guy, the wide guy, remember that guy? He was a senator from Idaho, and he got caught trying to elicit sex in a bathroom. And he was a part of a quartet, and his big thing was he was a Navy man. And so there's this stereotype, which, that, of course, these guys are alone at sea, and now, of course, women are a part of the military more so. But these guys are at sea, so there's a lot of buggering going on, right? This, it's a joke. I always make this joke. My wife and I talk while we're watching shows, and we'll rewind something if it's important. But we make jokes about stuff, especially when the show sucks. So I go, there's going to be a lot of buggering on this ship. And then the very next scene, a second later, right after I say that, there's some big fat guy raping this little Italian dude, and Spencer Dutton, the hero, beats the shit out of the guy and kills him because he just does shit like that, because he's killing people left and right. Just, randomly beating people up and killing them. And most of the time it's justified, but some of the time he goes over the top, and it's doesn't, his wife is now going to die because he threw some guy off a boat that he shouldn't have. And the Duttons make fucking bad decisions all the time. There's 5 or 6 decisions that are made that cause deaths and problems in every one of the shows. The characters are deeply flawed. They're arrogant. And they're very fucking, shoot first and ask questions later. So the James Bond guy, the villain, Timothy Dalton, they keep this storyline going. It's very graphic, where he's doing S&M stuff. And I'm like, nobody needs to see this. The buggering scene is way too graphic. I mean, there's an anal rape, right? And then his wife, she's locked up in a room. She gets her friend to sell jewelry that belongs to the position. They have jewelry that the Duchess of Sucksticks would wear, like some princess or something, that it isn't theirs to own. It's a part of the firm. It's part of the royal jewels and things, right? And it's supposed to be passed on to the next person that does that. But she sells this jewelry, and she gets on a boat, and she doesn't want to go first class because she's doesn't want anybody to see her because she's trying to sneak out. She's a high-ranking British person, and so she goes to the worst class, where they say there's a bunch of robbers and rapists and people there, and she's tossed around. The fucking she has a shitty boat ride. She gets to America, and she has to go through immigration, which she is run down multiple times. She has to go through all this processes, right? She's not used to it, and she actually gives them lip Like the person says, "You speak English," and she goes, "We invented it," that kind of bullshit. Because she hasn't had the shit kicked out of her about America yet. She comes in, and she gets 2 examinations where the guy does a digital vaginal, fingers her with 2 doctors do that to her. 2 separate doctors. They discover she's pregnant, and they put her through a whole bunch of other things to go with that because they don't allow pregnant women in because they'll have an anchor baby. And so, she's this British lord, and she's getting all that stuff. She's, crying and feels abused and sexually abused and all these things. And then she gets through that, and some guy, some guy who's selling her a train ticket, tells her to hide her cash because everyone saw her put it in her shoe, so she sticks it in her bra. She has some money, and, to look out for robbers. But she goes into a bathroom when there's nobody there in the train station, and some hobo-looking motherfucker comes in, beats the shit out of her, and takes her money. And leaves her with a black eye. She joins the Black Eye Club. And then she gets on the train with no money. He said he was going to rape her, but she's too skinny, like Donald Trump would say something, right? And so she gets on the train, and she doesn't have any food. She hasn't eaten in days. She was starving herself when she was, her friend was concerned because she was skinny, right? So she doesn't have any, she has this baby, and she's not eating properly. She says she hasn't eaten in days. And her train ticket doesn't have the meals included. And she's in this room, which she was warned about, with some Irish mother and her shitty, misbehaving kids. And she, begs some guy for food, and they let her work as a waitress so she can get fed. And that's going pretty good. But then there's some asshole there that she spills water on him, and he makes her dry off his crotch with a towel. Why these 2 British people who eventually find out she's British are watching. Or they don't watch that part, but that part happens. And then the next day she comes in and she talks to these British people, and they see that she's from the same country, and they kind of hit it off. And then this guy comes in, and he gets her he moves his cup closer to him so that he can get access to her, and he sticks up his hand up her dress and fingers her, raping her, and she beats the shit out of him with a pot, knocking his teeth out, according to the conductor, and now she's going to jail. Except these British people save her by testifying what happened to her. They didn't want to do it at first. And so that's what she experiences in a 24-hour period. In each episode, there's multiple fucking traumas. But then the other episode, this guy is, doing S&M with his, his 2 prostitutes, and then carving up land and ordering people to get killed. And they, they have this thing called the train station in the show Yellowstone, where it's a county without any people that they throw dead bodies into it. And he's the one who kind of discovers it. And they're tossing dead bodies into it. There's this other guy's Scottish or Irish, I don't know fuck what. And he was fighting with Dutton in the first season, but now he's working for this evil guy. And he's having a crisis of conscience because of all the shit he's doing. The Duttons themselves, this is where it gets unrealistic. So they have a young couple there, and the woman is rich and she's from the East, and she's going through this horrific winters that they have there, which we'll get into in a bit. And they go, the main guy, Harrison Ford, goes outside, and there's a cougar, there's a mountain lion sitting on their front porch. And, and it's totally CGI. It's fake as fuck. He takes a lot of liberties with animals in these shows. Animals doing shit they usually don't do. And he goes out on the front porch, and there's a mountain lion that runs off. But it comes back the next day, and they don't warn this young woman. She walks outside, and she's face to face with a mountain lion, and Helen Mirren shoots it through the window with a shotgun, just as it's jumping to kill the fucking woman, right? Windows are precious in those times, right? 1923. And it's the middle of the fucking winter, and I think there's this big fucking hole in the wall, right? And the young woman goes out the very next day to get the eggs from the chickens, which wouldn't be fucking laying because they don't have a light bulb in their coop. And everybody who has chickens knows that chickens stop laying in the winter until the sunlight starts coming back out. They don't lay all winter unless you have a light bulb in there. to provide artificial light. And so they lay their eggs when there's more daylight, and then as the summer goes on, they stop laying eggs by the fall. And throughout the winter and then in the spring they start laying eggs again. And these chickens that are bound in this coop were laying eggs. She's going to get eggs, which is bullshit. And then she sees all the chickens are dead, and she doesn't like get out of there. And there's a fucking wolf. And it's totally CGI and fake. It comes and chews on her leg and then runs off. And they're not sure if it's got diabetes. So they have to stick her in the belly, which she later finds out she's pregnant, because of course she is, with a diabetic needle, which she's horrified by. She's like, I'm leaving. I'm fucking leaving. I hate this fucking place. These winters are horrible. And the wolf then breaks in, and the doctor who comes in to treat the girl for diabetes has to sleep over. He's got a nurse, and she's sleeping on the couch. And they come down the next day, and Helen Mirren brings a shotgun because you know something's amiss. And the wolf has killed the nurse, jumped through a window, because it's rabid. It's just bullshit stuff, right? And it's just, doing things that only a script writer would make them do. Like a wolf wouldn't do this in real life. And, wolf attacks were very rare even back then on people. They killed cattle, but not people. And even if it has fucking rabies. And did I say diabetes? It's rabies. And so Helen Mirren kills it again. Now they have all these holes in their wall. And the girl's freaking out. She wants to leave. And meanwhile, the other guy, fucking the Harrison Ford character, is in town for a trial that's a big deal. This whole fucking thing. He's trying to get his one of his ranch hands who's married a Japanese. They do a lot of stuff where they lecture about racism and sexism. I mean, there's a woman sheriff. I mean, there's a lot of shitty storylines that I'm not going to get to. But he's married to a Japanese girl, so they lock them both up, and they knock him over the head. And he comes back to the farm. It turns out that he's having a sub something hematoma, which means the doctor has to drill in his head with a fucking regular drill. Doesn't have any anesthesia because fucking he doesn't. And drill in his head and drain his fucking fluid around his brain. Like, these are all the things that are going on. It's all fucking fake. I mean, there's girls getting shot in the stomach with the needle and fucking rabies, bitten by wolves, and this guy's getting this thing going. And the people are they're going to assault the ranch pretty soon, which is going to happen in the last episode, try to kill all of them and take the land for a resort. So meanwhile, after killing the guy for a buggering, the Spencer fucking guy, whatever their name is, Dutton, the hero, he gets hooked up with the mafia somewhere in Texas where the boat ended up. And it's the guy he saved from the buggering. Him and the guy go to deliver bootlegging. Because it's, alcohol's illegal. And he gets the use of the truck so he can drive, but there's a roadblock. And Spencer Dutton said, I'm not dying for a bunch of alcohol, so he gets out of the truck. But they kill the other guy, the buggering guy, so he's, Spencer Dutton saved from suicide, but then allows him to go get killed by the police. And the police pick him up and make him finish the run so that they can kill all the bootleggers. And he takes off, but he's on the lam for them. He gets on a train. He gets in his train car, and there's a bunch of hobos, and they said that he has to pay a tax, and they said he's going to fall asleep at some point, and it's clear he should just shoot the fucking hobos because they're gross and ugly and fucking they're going to kill him in his sleep. I mean, they've already indicated they're going to kill him and take his shit in his sleep, and he wakes up and this girl has a razor blade to him, but he's so quick he grabs her hand. And he shoots the other guy and he kills the hobos. But then he jumps off the train, even though now he has the car to himself for no apparent reason. And he gets picked up by a sheriff woman who's searching for the guy who's going around the country. This priest and this fucking sheriff are just going around killing Indians everywhere, Native Americans. And they're being hunted by tribes as they hunt down this girl that burned down the monastery. They eventually kill all of her family and she gets freed by some judge because there's no evidence supporting, because all the people who are dead that can testify against her. So her storyline is basically she loses everything, and she's got a horse, and she's like going to ride into the fucking California because some guy said, I hear it's good out there. And so, like, her storyline only makes no sense in terms of, unless, most of these things were about ancestral things that would shape the narrative about Yellowstone, right? And they had a previous movie where the girl dies in the end, and they just go through one trauma after another, right? These horrific traumas, most of them fake and contrived and just horrible. So while in Texas, or Oklahoma, Texas, I guess it was, he gets picked up by this U.S. Marshal woman who's got to talk about, everyone's like, I can't believe you're doing this job, you're a woman, kind of bullshit. Like, he's got a lot of stuff about powerful women. And he gets freed. They contact the local sheriff, and he talks about how this guy's he's got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he's a real fucking hero, and you got to let him go. And he gets on a train, and he's heading towards, he's finally, on the train heading towards his family that needs him because they're about to have this big day, this assault. But they find out that he's coming home because the switchboard operators are very gossipy. And so the Timothy Dalton character and all these guys, with him are going to kill him at the train station. So he's coming into the train station. They're waiting to kill him. And his Harrison Ford's bringing his crew. And he tells one guy to stay behind, the guy who was, with the woman who wanted to leave, the blonde woman that wanted to leave. And she's like, finds out she's pregnant. She wants to stay. And he says, stay back because the ranch is probably going to be assaulted. But this dope follows his follows his uncle or whatever the fuck it was anyway. And he gets shot and killed. So they have that waiting for him at the end to figure out. So this woman is, now carrying a baby in a place that the fucking, these horrible winters and the life she can't stand. And eventually the ranch is going to be assaulted by these guys who are basically NPCs and don't, like probably 100 of them, and they're all going to get killed because they're fucking, they're making a couple of bucks for this thing. And so and so when Spencer's coming back, his wife is then getting driven across because the trains aren't running from Chicago where she's at. And so she goes with this English couple who hear her story, and they're like, well, we're just going to drive you to Montana. And the reason the trains aren't running because it's like fucking June, and it's the spring everywhere else, but there's still this massive blizzards happening in the area between North Dakota, Fargo, and fucking and Montana. And so they're driving, and they're getting a little bit cold, and it's getting a little shitty. But they say from Chicago they'll be fine. And they stop at a gas station. And the woman says, yeah, you can't drive. There's no more gas stations. You got to get the train. And they fucking ignore her. They've just been told there's no gas stations. They're already starting to get cold. And so they're all freezing in the car, and they're running out of gas. And the blonde, Spencer Dutton's wife, who's pregnant, falls asleep in the back. And she wakes up. The woman's frozen to death in the front. And the man is walked out into the fucking whatever it is. And so this is what she's gone through in the past, 36 hours to 2 or 3 days. She's harassed at immigration, sexually violated there a couple times, mistreated, and, just meeting all kinds of shitty people and going through all kinds of shit, right? Then she's assaulted and robbed, got the shit kicked out of her. She gets on the train. She's sexually assaulted by another guy. They lock her up in a little closet for a day and a half. And then she goes and drives across the country with this rich British couple who then both die. And then she's stuck in the middle of fucking Montana, the border of Montana, in a snowdrift with nothing, to keep her warm. And she sets a fire in the car. And so she's about to give up, and she's talking to God how cruel he is and why would he do this to her when she's just miles away from reaching her destination. And the train goes by, and Spencer Dutton sees her, and jumps off the fucking train and runs and gets her and doesn't have a coat or any fucking thing on. and then the train appears to be taking off, and the train's going so fast, like it's just fucking silly. They run into each other's arms, and then she gets on the train. There's a doctor treating her, and they pull off these thin little gloves she has in her socks, and her feet and her hands are black, which means they're going to have to be amputated. And she's 6 months pregnant. She goes to a hospital. Oh, before that, so they're going back to the train station where there's going to be this fight out. She's inside trying to warm up from being, from hypothermia. And Spencer Dutton goes out, and they have this fucking brawl shootout at the train station where, random people are getting killed. Fucking everyone's, there's just the shooting is going on everywhere. And, the train isn't made of bulletproof material. So there should be multiple passengers who should be getting killed. And him and his family win. And he goes back, and his uncle, Harrison Ford, takes her to the hospital. And Spencer Dutton goes back and kills all the people that are inside his house. They're about to kill his aunt, Helen Mirren, and these other people. The guy with the fucking hole in his head, because he had to get his head drilled, right? And I'm leaving out lots of shit, right? The scene where he and the woman run into each other's arms is so fucking cheesy and so contrived and so fucking unrealistic, just fucking goofy. So she goes in the hospital, gives birth, but doesn't want the baby to die. It's this little premature 6-month-old baby from a woman that you could barely tell was pregnant because she wasn't eating. And she nurses it until she dies. Spencer Dutton comes back and says goodbye to her and sleeps with her, and she dies in her sleep. And they start feeding the baby goat milk, who becomes the lineage of the Duttons, right? And then he goes back and he goes in and kills the Timothy Dalton character, who's sitting at the table with these two sluts, these two prostitutes. One who's she's his main prostitute, and then she's brought in another one because they killed the last one, who they both beat the shit out of and abuse, right? And Spencer Dutton shoots him, and the woman gets up, the bad prostitute, and takes a knife to him, which is just silly, because he's a big fucking guy with a gun. And, he has disarmed people before, but he shoots and kills her because if he leaves her alive, she can testify against him, but he's not doing it for that reason. It's just a plot flaw. And then he tells the other girl to go. And they find the horse of his cousin who was shot and killed, so they have 2 funerals to attend to. And they say the guy's never going to marry. And at the end, he dies, and he goes to heaven, which heaven for them is some dance that they were at where he's dressed up in a tuxedo, and he sees his wife because they met at some fucking speakeasy in Africa. And so this whole thing's a fucking mess. And the graphic nature, especially the sexual deprivation, the buggering, and this sadomasochistic shit that they're showing is completely unnecessary. It's all shock value stuff. And each one of these shows gets more like that as they go on. And it's almost like this guy's the devil, the guy who created this thing, Tyler Sheridan. It's just fucking, people thought about this as being anti-woke. And his whole point of view seems to be that this is how tough it was back in America in those days. They had the wagon train thing that was the previous generation that found the land. And it's just supposed to be excruciating with pain and suffering and trauma and life-threatening things and how strong they are, especially this family and what they're willing to fight through. And, they can conquer anything because they'll just... And it's fucking who would want to live in this world? These people are all fucking miserable. The people are fucking horrible, abusive, murderous, rapists. They're just the worst, gossiping, all the rapist and racist. All this stuff. It's just, and there's some good people in there trying to get through with all these horrible fucking people. And, maybe that was the case back then to some extent. But, why life wouldn't be worth living. The stuff that they go through, the traumas. And there's one line towards the end of the movie, I think he says it to his wife or somebody, Spencer Dutton says. And they're talking about the winter. And he said, there's only 3 seasons in Montana: July, August, and winter. And I'm like, you're fighting for this land. Like the majority of the Yellowstone episodes take place in the summer, maybe the fall. Doesn't take place in the winter. Like they avoid the winter. And these winters are horrible in the northern part of the country. 8 months out of the year. And I'm like, your guys are fighting and dying for this land and suffering for this magical land that's full of trauma and blood and, bad history for 4 good months a year. Like, what the fuck? I mean, like this precious land that everybody wants, and, it's being all these big developers, they have to fight off all these rich, people. There's a part where Timothy Dalton is talking about this resort he's going to build for all his elite buddies, and he goes, "We're building this thing for the elite," and I'm like, the elite always call themselves the elite, and it's supposed to be like this kind of like a right wing antidote to all the woke shit, but it's filled with woke shit and depraved things that they're getting you to watch, and they have no real bearing on the overall plot line. Like the sadomasochistic part of the story with Timothy Dalton, I mean, they put it in a lot more episodes than it needs to be, and it's a lot more graphic and longer. Like we fast forwarded through it, and the buggering scene was a lot more graphic than it had to be. And it's like, they really want you to see these things, right? I mean, they really want you to the graphic nature and the stress. It's not going to affect people in any way. And what are you supposed to think? Oh, how tough and better we were when we lived in these kind of circumstances. Like this brought out the best in people, or the, people when they had to survive such things. And, so it's just, I mean, the guy's a real piece of shit. Okay, so I was about to end it there. And I went for a walk with my dogs, and I remembered things about the scene that I'm talking about. So at the end of the movie, Spencer Dutton kills the Timothy Dalton character, and he says, "You killed my wife." He's just fresh from the hospital, his wife dying. He's got a premature baby that's, I mean, it shouldn't be alive. Like it's not, it's, and it's the whole, it's going to be responsible for the whole Dutton line because he's never going to remarry, whatever. So he kills this guy, blaming him for his wife's death. And the logic here is that him and his wife were somewhere in France, partying it up. And he gets a letter from his aunt saying, "Come back. Somebody's trying to steal the ranch." And so he's blaming him having to come back to America. Like he was in the war, went to Africa to kill lions, which is not a noble, situation. He met this girl in Africa, and I think they got attacked by a lion and an elephant at 2 different times. Like they had all these traumatic things. And then they were in a shipwreck. Like the boat capsized. I mean, there was some weird shit that went on, right? I can't remember all the details, but they were in a shitty ship that capsized. And then somehow they end up in a yacht. And she was going to marry, she's like a duke's daughter, and, and she was going to marry the son of some guy who's higher than her family. So she's going to marry up. And her family is really happy about her marrying the guy. And she takes off with Spencer Dutton, breaking off the engagement. But her fiance and his powerful father, he's like some guy like, one step down from the king kind of thing. And his powerful father is on the boat, and he's talking shit to Spencer Dutton and about, because he's been cucked by him. And he challenges him to a duel, and Spencer Dutton resists. But then he calls Spencer Dutton's wife a whore. Let me show you that scene here.
Run away with your fucking whore!
Please don't. And then he goes to duel the guy, and his wife asks him again not to do that.
His words mean nothing. There is no dishonor in refusing to fight.
Now, she's trying to say, let it go. And he doesn't. So they have a sword fight or some shit. I can't remember the specifics. And Spencer Dutton beats him easily because the guy's a puss. And Spencer Dutton's a killer for a living, as he calls it. And Spencer Dutton just throws the guy overboard unnecessarily. And he's like, "I'll always fight for you," to his wife. But they get split up at that point. And because they get split up, all those bad things happen to her, right? Like she's heartbroken. She's alone with a baby. She has to come to America on a really shitty, boat journey where she's, sick at sea and traumatized and with all these people that are, poor, sick people. And then she gets humiliated through the immigration process and sexually assaulted. And then gets beat out of her and robbed. She then gets sexually assaulted again. And then she, she freezes to death, basically. I mean, it's going to cause her death. And those are all things because they split up, because he couldn't control his fucking temper and his pride, right? And just walk away, because everyone knew that if he killed this guy, they were going to be split up. I mean, it was a manipulation in the script, but it was certainly more of his fault. My wife and I were like, it's totally your fault, right? That she's dead. I mean, based on the way that the storyline went out, because of his inability to control himself. From some guy just using words, and he didn't need to throw the guy overboard. Like it would, whatever was gone down with that, if he didn't do that, they probably would have stayed together. But right before he throws the guy overboard, he said, "I'll always fight for you." And, he did. Like, fighting would have been resisting your impulses. They just make the Duttons make horrible decisions. They make stupid decisions. They have unbelievably bad luck, but somehow they survive it all for some land that's winter 8 months of the year. What's the point? This isn't an example of some, American, some patriotic American story. It's an example of toiling, and that life is pointless and people are evil and America sucks. Like this woman coming through the immigration process all the way, on the train, she's told that she's going to be robbed and assaulted. I mean, all the things they said, that, America's a horrible place. In 1923, time of the Depression, right before the Depression. And it's a horrible place. And if it isn't the people that are going to get you, it's it's like when there's, a Jaws-like character, Jaws in the movie, the shark Jaws, and these natural elements that seem to be just trying to fuck people over. Like they're not just doing what they're supposed to do. Like, it snows in fucking Montana and there's blizzards. It's not there to fuck you over. It's just where you live, right? That's the weather conditions. There are tornadoes, there are things. They're not personal. They're not like they're saying, "Oh, we're going to fucking come out." They talk about God like God's just trying to punish everybody all the time. And that somehow your death is a punishment, but if you have a soul, then you're released from this fucking morbid existence, right? This, unlivable existence that he's painted in his universes, and it's throughout all of his shows. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Power Mile, definitely pointing for the Apacalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.